Hello, my name is Jayden Slaba, and today I'll be doing my final art presentation on Leonardo da Vinci. So Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15th, 1452 in Anciano, Italy, and he died on May 2nd, 1519 in Clou, France. So where and when did Leonardo create his work? Da Vinci created his work in various cities throughout Italy, including Florence, Milan, and Rome. Da Vinci grew up on his family's estate in a small town in Italy until he was about 15 years old when he aspired to becoming an artist. He then moved to Florence where he was apprenticed by the artist known as Andrea del Verrocchio. And he worked in Florence until about 1481 with the Painters Guild of Florence and alongside Verrocchio. And one of his first paintings ever completed was in 1475 with his mentor Verrocchio, and that was called The Baptism of Christ. And we'll take a look at that in the next coming slides. And then, like I said, in 1482, he actually moved to Milan, and he did work for the Duke of Milan and started to create artworks including Virgin on the Rocks and The Last Supper. Leonardo spent 17 years in total in Milan. And then from 1500 to 1513, he spent years back in Florence, and then as well as coming back to Milan ultimately. And this is where, during the time where he began one of his most famous paintings, known as the Mona Lisa in 1503. And then he moved to Rome in 1513, where he acquired work from the Pope, as well as completing his last major painting known as St. John the Baptist. And then he moved to Clou, France in 1516, where he ultimately passed away 3 years later. So some important information about Da Vinci. Other than being a famous painter, he was also a sculptor, architect, and inventor, as well as a military engineer, and this was all done during the Renaissance era. And through Leonardo's studies in the sciences, it gave him the ability to add deeper elements to his artworks, and we'll be able to see that in the examples of his finished, completed artworks in the next coming slides. And Da Vinci also placed a lot of sketches in these notebooks and arranged them around and organized them into paintings, architecture, mechanics, and even the human anatomy. And he filled dozens of these notebooks with finely drawn illustrations as well as scientific observations. And this was most likely to be done because he wanted to more accurately depict gestures and movements in his artworks. And this really helped when in his studies through the sciences, as well as through the dissection of human cadavers. And Leonardo's pencil sketches clearly reveal his mastery of technical as well as artistic architectural problems. And we can see this in one of his most famous invention sketches of the flying machine. And although Leonardo, his paintings became quite famous, the number of his paintings finished were actually quite low because he was such a busy guy. So in my opinion, one of the most famous artworks ever done by Leonardo is the Mona Lisa, and that was completed and started in 1503 to 1519. And this painting shows Leonardo's talent for realism. Personally, I think it's interesting that Leonardo incorporated the creepy but mesmerizing impression of how the Mona Lisa is always watching you, and as well as, in addition, the soft and mysterious smile which was accomplished by his study. And from before, like I said, he was able to accomplish this because of his experiences of working with human cadavers. And he was able to analyze the concepts of perception and the anatomy and physiology of the mouth and eyes displayed in the Mona Lisa. And I believe that this is one of his most famous paintings in the world because it is a mysterious and utter meaning for people to try and understand the artwork. And another famous painting done by Da Vinci is The Last Supper, which was completed from 1495 to 1498. And this painting encapsulates the disciples' gestures and behavior in which they are known for. For example, we see Judas is holding a bag of coins, which ultimately foreshadows his betrayal for Jesus. Furthermore, this piece expresses Jesus sitting in the center while the apostles appear to argue and debate around Jesus. And I was able to connect to this piece because my parents actually have this painting in our dining room at home, and it's just a miraculous piece that depicts the Last Supper. And one of Da Vinci's first created artworks was the Baptism of Christ in 1470 to 1475, while he was in Florence with his mentor Verrocchio. And it is believed that Verrocchio was actually upset with Da Vinci because of his great artistic ability, because he actually painted the angels shown on the left in the painting. And in this painting, we can also see that Jesus is centered in the middle, being baptized by St. John on the right, and St. John is wetting Jesus' head with water while holding a slender cross. And in 1481, just before leaving Florence to Milan, he left his unfinished painting known as the Adoration of Maggie. And in this artwork, we can see his architectural elements boldly outlined through his sketches. And this drawing is remarkable for its extreme concentration with the various structural components, including the round arches on the left, the staircase is centered in the middle, and we can even see men riding on horses in the back. So this was a art piece completed while Da Vinci was in Milan. This is known as the Virgin on the Rocks, and this was made from 1483 to 1486. And then this piece of artwork, it depicts John the Baptist, who is kneeling in prayer on the left, Mary, who's putting her hands over Jesus, and an angel accompanying Jesus on the right in the red robe. And all these people are coming before Jesus and kneeling to them to be blessed by him. Furthermore, the meaning of this painting displays the impression of how the figures are emerging from the darkness, from the background, to be blessed by Jesus. And the lady with the Ermin, it was made in 1489 and to 1491 when he was in Milan, and presumably it represents Leonardo's acquaintance of the Duke of Milan's mistress. Then again, it reveals Da Vinci's incorporation of the well-known knowledge of the human anatomy, and Leonardo depicts this with the slender hand-bone curvature while touching the detail of the animal shown. And this is also an interesting painting because the background is pitch black, and it ultimately contrasts with the lady centered with the vibrant colors of her dress of the blue, red, and orange. And then the Virtruvian Man, this was made in 1490, and this is an example of how he combined his various expertises from other fields to create his artworks. And this was one of Leonardo's sketches and drawings, one of his many notebooks. And this is a great example of how we can see the human body is used to shed light on solving proportions and shapes. That is, the human body, when standing feet on the ground and stretching his arms, can be placed in a square. Likewise, if the body's arms and legs are spread out, it can be inscribed into a circle. However, this drawing doesn't offer any color, but it does provide what Leonardo's mind might have thought when applying principles from various fields in the sciences and architecture, including shapes. So another sketch done by Da Vinci was known as the Head of the Woman, and this was a drawing made in 1500 to 1510, and it is thought that this sketch is served as a model for Mary from the painting Virgin on the Rocks, and we looked at that earlier in the slideshow here. And this painting shows a soft face of a woman that shows her disheveled hair, which just means that there's just wayward strands of floating hair, and her eyes are downcast with heavy eyelids, again with that soft smile, just like the Mona Lisa depicted. And then we can go back to that Leonardo knew how to make his drawings have such detail on the face, facial features, and eyes because of his work with human cadavers. And one of the last paintings that, or drawings or sketches that Da Vinci created was known as Leonardo's self-portrait, which was made approximately in 1515 to 1516. And Da Vinci actually used red chalk in this drawing, and this offers a depiction of an old man with a large beard and downcast eyes. However, some historians believe that this doesn't depict Da Vinci at all because the drawings look much older than what Leonardo would have aged to. However, this drawing of red chalk does bring out a different side of Leonardo's artwork by drawing a self-portrait of himself other than drawing other things of art. And here are my sources, and I'd like to say thank you for listening about my final art presentation on Leonardo da Vinci, and I can't wait to listen to everyone else's final presentations. Thank you.